Have you ever felt smart, but still broke? Top grades in school. You understand a lot of topics. People even come to you for advice. But your salary is low, your career's stuck, and life feels like it's going in circles. Meanwhile, out there, people who, let's be honest, aren't that smart, are winning. Their conversations make no sense. Their knowledge is shallow. Yet they drive luxury cars, live in big houses, and their careers skyrocket like rockets. How? What went wrong? What's the point of being smart if it only makes you smart enough to suffer? Maybe we were wrong from the start. We thought being smart was the golden ticket to success. But the real world doesn't work like a logic test. This isn't a multiple choice quiz, it's a boxing ring. And being smart, that's not your main weapon. Think back. From a young age, we were taught to be smart. Get good grades, memorize formulas, know all the facts. But we were rarely taught how to survive. We weren't taught how to manage emotions. We weren't taught how to build real connections. We weren't taught that bold confidence, even if it looks dumb, often pays off more than quiet intelligence. And that's where the trap is. Smart people often feel the pressure to be right, to be perfect, to be logical. But guess what? The world isn't always fair. It isn't always rational. And it often rewards the bold, not the brilliant. Intelligence becomes a cage. The smarter you are, the higher the expectations. The sharper your criticism toward others, the world, and yourself. But that constant self-criticism, it's not wisdom. It's a fast track to burnout. Here's the bitter truth. Being smart is overrated. In real life, in business, in your career, intelligence is just a bonus. What really matters is flexibility, emotional awareness, the ability to make moves, even when you're scared. And you know what's more valuable than a high IQ? Emotional intelligence, communication skills, the resilience to rise after failure. And yes, sometimes the courage to look stupid. If you still believe smart success, it's time to unlearn that idea, because AI is now smarter than most humans. But what AI doesn't have is human instinct, the gut to take risks, the ability to adapt. And that is what makes you truly powerful. They're just lucky. He was born into a rich family, of course it's easy for him. I don't have privilege, so yeah, life's supposed to be hard. We've heard these lines so many times. Heck, maybe you have said them too. But what if the truth is, those statements aren't entirely wrong, but they're not entirely right either? Because yeah, some people are born with advantages. High IQ, good looks, powerful connections, a supportive family, maybe even a family business. But why do so many of them still fail? And why do people with nothing still manage to rise? At this point, we need to face a painful question. If we're really that smart, why hasn't our life changed? Is success really just about IQ and luck? Or have we been raised in a system that gave us fake confidence, but quietly killed our grit? Because here's the deal. You can be born smart, but success, that has to be trained, tested, burned, and built. Many smart kids grow up constantly being praised. A good grade? Applause. Answer a hard question? Hero status. Sound smarter than your friends? You're special. But here's the problem. All of that creates a dangerous illusion that your value as a person, your intelligence. And when they grow up, they fear mistakes. They avoid starting from scratch. They hesitate to take risks because failing would damage that smart label they've always worn. They forget the real world doesn't care how much you know. It only cares what you can do. That's the real conflict. Smart people overthink. They analyze too much, but they move too little. They're afraid to look stupid. But in life, you've got to be willing to look stupid before you can ever become great. Meanwhile, the so-called average people, they're more fearless. They fail faster, and because of that, they learn faster. They're not busy protecting an image. They're busy chasing opportunity. So, it's not about who's smartest. It's about who's brave enough to learn from failure. And here's the part no one talks about. Intelligence is not the ultimate privilege, but the mental freedom to fail, fall, get back up, and try again, that's the real privilege. That's why so many people with average IQs take massive leaps. They're willing to look dumb. They're willing to act. And they know something the smart ones often forget. It's not about what you know. It's about what you do with what you know. We often say, yeah, I already know that. But here's the question. When was the last time you actually did something with what you know? Have you ever thought, I'm smart, I've studied hard, so why is my life still stuck? Meanwhile, out there, people who aren't even half as smart are already rich, successful, and influential. Feels unfair, doesn't it? In this segment, we're going to talk about the real root of the problem, why being smart just isn't enough, and why so many intelligent people fall into the same trap. An average life, no impact, sometimes even crushed by the very system they tried to master. Here's the hard truth. The world isn't built for people who know a lot. It's built for people who can use what they know to create value and sell it. Smart people often get caught up in the process, not the outcome. They keep learning, analyzing, criticizing. But forget one thing. The world doesn't pay you because you're smart. It pays you because you create impact, solve problems, or entertain. The proof is everywhere. Look at social media. How many creators out there are average academically? But they earn millions because they know how to connect with people. Meanwhile, the theoretical geniuses are stuck debating things. They never monetize. Worse, smart people often suffer from the overthinking syndrome. Every move must be perfect. Every risk must be zero. So what happens? They never start. They never move, and the world keeps spinning without them. Ironically, the more they know, the more afraid they become. They understand all the risks, see how brutal the world can be, and that very knowledge paralyzes them. Overthinkers, underdoers. Meanwhile, people who are just smart enough but dare to move, they win. Because this world belongs to the ones who act, not just the ones who think. And no, this isn't about being anti-education. It's about what you do with what you know. So if you feel smart, but your life hasn't changed, it's time to get real with yourself. Are you brave enough to get out of your own head and start taking action? Or are you still busy being a life commentator? While your own life stays stagnant? Smart people who succeed, it's not just their IQ. It's because they know when to think and when to act. Because at the end of the day, knowledge is just a tool, and what gives that tool value is how you use it. Ever notice something strange? Why do smart people, those who understand so much, often end up being the ones getting used? They're the brains, but somehow they don't realize they're being played, exploited, drained, turned into tools by the system. Ironic? Very. In this segment, we're diving into a hidden trap, a trap that keeps many smart people from truly owning their lives. They think they're living the life they chose, when in reality, they're just pieces on someone else's chessboard. One of the biggest traps smart people fall into is the obsession with being good and right. They want everything to follow logic, ethics, theory. They want to be perfect, flawless, ideal. But they forget one thing. The world doesn't always play by those rules. Big bosses, they're not looking for the smartest employees. They want people who work hard, obey orders, don't ask questions. And guess who fits that mold perfectly? Smart people stuck in overthinking, too cautious to take risks, too polite to question the game. Worse, many don't even realize they're being exploited. Their skills used to make someone else richer. Their time traded for a decent salary and a thank you email. While their boss flies to Switzerland, they're at home wondering, maybe I'm just not working hard enough. And if you ask, why don't they fight back? The answer's simple. They're too busy thinking instead of acting, afraid of instability, afraid to fail, afraid to be seen as selfish. So they stay quiet, keep going, unaware they're helping build someone else's dream, not their own. If this hits home, maybe it's time to open your eyes. Being smart isn't just about knowing things. It's also about knowing when to say no, when to stand your ground, when to walk your own path. Smart people can be incredibly powerful once they realize they have power, but as long as they live to please the system, too afraid to make bold decisions, they'll remain just that, a tool, a cog in someone else's machine. So the real question is, do you want to keep getting used, or finally start building a game of your own? Do you really know what keeps rich people rich? It's not just hard work. It's not just luck. There's one factor most people overlook: the mistakes they don't make. In this segment, we'll break down why wealthy people don't fall into the same traps that keep smart people stuck in place. It's not about being smarter. It's not about working harder. It's about refusing to repeat the same cycle. Let's be clear. Rich people aren't superheroes. They're not necessarily smarter than you. What sets them apart is how they view the world, how they make decisions, and how they use their time. Most successful people share one trait. They're not afraid to take risks. They're not afraid to fail. And when they do fail, they pivot. They learn. They move forward. Smart people, on the other hand, they tend to be overly cautious, paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake. So what happens? They overanalyze and underact. Don't get me wrong, smart people have incredible potential. But if you don't know how to use that potential in a fast-moving world, You'll stay in your comfort zone, watching others pass you by. Meanwhile, rich people don't see failure as something to avoid. They see it as part of the process. They understand that sometimes you have to lose a little to learn a lot and come back stronger. If you want to change your life, you need to start by taking bold action. Stop obsessing over tiny mistakes. Stop letting fear of failure hold you back. If you never move, you'll never grow. You'll stay exactly where you are. Rich people aren't fearless. They've just trained themselves to act despite the fear. They know every failure brings them one step closer to success. You have to start thinking the same way. Don't let your intelligence become your biggest obstacle. When you start making smart moves, taking real action, and accepting failure as part of the path, you become more than just smart. You become unstoppable. Why do some smart people stay broke, while others, who seem totally average, become wildly successful? Why does that happen? What are they doing differently? The answer isn't just intelligence. In this segment, we'll uncover the real key that keeps successful people rising, and why so many highly intelligent people stay stuck in routines that lead nowhere. Here's the truth. Most smart and highly educated people are trapped in their comfort zones. They trust their knowledge a little too much. They believe that a high IQ alone is enough to figure life out. But in reality, intelligence without action becomes a prison of overthinking. They analyze, they study, they plan, but they hesitate to take the first real step toward change. Meanwhile, the people who succeed, they may not be smarter, but they know when to move. They spot opportunities. They act fast. They're willing to make mistakes because they know mistakes are part of progress. Wealthy people aren't just smart in business. They're smart with time, with energy, with risk. They use what they know. They don't wait for perfect. They go, and that's the difference. Because intelligence is valuable, but courage is what activates it. So what should you take from this? Stop relying on your intelligence alone. Start taking real action. Start even if you're scared. Use the chances you already have. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, because it doesn't exist. If you keep hesitating, you'll stay stuck, exactly where you are. Success doesn't belong to the smartest. It belongs to the bold, the ones who move first, learn from mistakes, and aren't afraid to fall. So be bold enough to move, brave enough to fail, and strong enough to rise. Because in the end, success belongs to those who act, not just those who think. If this made you think, if it hit a little too close to home, then maybe it's time to surround yourself with ideas that push you forward. Subscribe, not just for content, but for clarity, courage, and a reminder that you're not alone in this game. Your next move could change everything. Let's make sure it's the right one.